Wouldn't it be nice to be able to just know what to eat without fussing about what, how much, and have neutral feelings and no guilt? Today is a solo episode of the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, and I'm going to be discussing intuitive eating and how you can experience food freedom. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, where we dive deep into pressing health and fitness issues facing aging women. I'm Allie Kerr.
And I'm Shawna Kaminsky. And together we'll bring candid conversations, expert advice, and personal stories that will inspire and empower you on your own wellness journey.
So first of all, what is an intuitive eater and why would you want to become one? Well, an intuitive eater is someone who makes food choices without experiencing guilt, honors your hunger, respects your fullness, enjoys the pleasure of eating. And I want to discuss 10 principles so that you can better understand what an intuitive eater is and hopefully move in that direction. So first of all, an intuitive eater is going to reject diet mentality. You need to understand that losing weight quickly with crash or fad diets is not the answer. And an intuitive eater is someone who learns to trust your body to tell it what it needs. Secondly, you honor your hunger. So that means you keep your body fed with adequate energy and carbohydrates. So you're not going to be mindlessly reducing entire macronutrient food groups. And thirdly, you just make peace with food. You allow yourself to eat what you want when you want. And it's really important to have some nutritional awareness here because obviously you can't eat the kitchen sink and still achieve your goals. So having said you get to eat what you want when you want, that has to come with some moderation and common sense. But we need to keep in mind that no food should be off limits, because if you tell yourself that you can't or shouldn't have a certain food, it can lead to intense feelings of deprivation that build itself up into huge cravings. And then when you finally give in, you just might overeat, and then be consumed with overwhelming guilt. Number 4, you actually challenge the food police, because food doesn't have any morality. So we need to stop labeling foods as good or bad. Calories are calories. There are some that are more supportive than others. But having said this, no food should be entirely off limits. Number 5 is that you respect your fullness. So this becomes your ability to listen to your body and because your body will tell you when it's full if you listen. Now, here's a client tip that I often give is that it takes your belly about 20 minutes to tell your brain it's full. So if you are eating more slowly, you will avoid overeating more easily. And this will help you get in touch with when you're actually full. Number 6 is to discover the satisfaction factor and just allow yourself to enjoy food, because oftentimes we just overlook the pleasure and happiness that comes with eating good food. And number 7 would be to honor your feelings without using food. So you need to find ways to comfort, nurture, distract yourself using food, and because other emotions can trigger you to eat. And understanding that food won't fix feelings. So we need to start to recognize the difference between emotion and hunger. Often what I talk to my clients about is the acronym HALTS. And it stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and stressed. And so whenever you're reaching for food, if you're hungry, absolutely eat. But if you are angry, lonely, tired, or stressed, finding an alternative activity is advantageous in serving your nutritional needs. So number 8 is respecting your body and accepting the genetic blueprint that your body is. We need to be realistic. It's really hard to reject diet mentality if you're unrealistic and overcritical about your genetic makeup and body shape. Just as you wouldn't expect a size 5 foot fit into a size 8 shoe, you can't expect your body to be the size that it's not. And I don't know where we got this idea that smaller is better. That is just a fallacy. Number 9 is exercise, and we want to move the body because it feels good, not as a form of punishment. And when we focus on feeling good from working out, we're going to be more motivated to move rather than when it's punitive. And number 10, it's progress, not perfection. That's what counts. We need to remember that we can't eat perfectly. If you're off the path, it's not your ruin. And if you eat a salad, it's not going to be your savior. It's all about balance, and you're not suddenly going to be nutrient deficient or gain weight from 1 calorie dense snack or poor day of eating. So let's talk about the pros of intuitive eating. And number 1 is because there's no restrictions, you basically can eat what you want, when you want. There's not going to be hang-ups about certain foods. And once you have the basics of nutrition figured out, you can break free of meal plans and diets and not be really bound by specific rules. So it allows you to be a bit more free and easy about your food choices, which makes everyday life more enjoyable. Now you can count macronutrients. This is something I'm going to talk about a little bit later, and still practice intuitive eating. And your macronutrients profile, or your macros, it will just provide a roadmap of what your body needs nutritionally. And that is often very helpful in becoming a more intuitive eater. I'm going to talk about that shortly. The cons of intuitive eating is you must have a very good understanding of food and calories and portion sizes and just basic nutrition. And that takes time and understanding of what foods are calorie dense, what should be consumed in lower quantities, less frequently. For example, things like nuts and avocados are full of nutrients and healthy fats, but they're very calorie dense. So while you might be eating healthy options, you could still be putting yourself in a calorie surplus inadvertently. And this skill of understanding nutrition and what your body needs does not happen overnight. It takes a lot of practice. And having less structure and guidelines makes it more challenging. So it doesn't mean that you have to calorie count, but it does mean that you have to have an understanding of how many calories your body needs to reach its goals, whether that is to gain weight, lose weight, or maintain. And now, to truly become an intuitive eater, what I found is that it's often good to have a top-down approach and a bottom-up approach.
We're going to interrupt this interview for just a second because we've got something we want to make sure that you know.
If you're struggling with your health, with your fitness, if you don't know where to start, or you know what to do and you're not doing it, we're here for you.
And all you need to do to get our help is to reach out to Shawna and I at our email, sapodcast23@gmail.com. And we're happy to help, and we will be in touch. Now back to the show.
Now, the top-down approach is really about creating an awareness as to why you make nutritional choices. So what I suggest with my clients, and I actually provide an intuitive eating prompt at 8 o'clock every night, is having a reflection about, just a thought about your daily intake. Why did you make your food choices? How did they make you feel? Some examples might be, did you eat your feelings today? What could you have done instead? Looking back over the last few days, were you eating out of hunger or habit? What foods do you turn to? What could you have done instead? So just creating some awareness of what your food choices were, and actually just becoming to help you become more intentional about your food choices. Because it's funny, we eat all our lives, but a lot of times we don't even notice that we've eaten or what we've eaten. So the prompts or this reflection provides a multitude of serves as a multitude of objectives, because it helps you connect the dots between triggers and food choices. For example, you might have noticed that somebody commented about, maybe your outfit, and you got angry and then you reach for cookies, or you were tired and then you found yourself in the pantry snacking. Secondly, these reflections help you to celebrate when food choices felt good. For example, maybe you chose a salad with a burger instead of fries, and so then you didn't feel stuffed after eating, or you pushed away and didn't have that second helping of something even though you wanted to, but you listened to your fullness. Or maybe you noticed, hey, I've eaten more vegetables today and that felt good. And it most importantly helps you plan for the future, because the thing is that food is connected to so many things. It's so much more than fuel, and we eat for so many reasons: to celebrate, to honor traditions, to socialize, out of habit, for expression of emotions, so much. And so we want to in some way unpair the emotions and be less judgmental of yourself and the actual foods eaten, because food has no morality. It is not good or bad. And it's never the individual food that's the problem. It's the pattern of eating over time that can cause health and weight management issues. So we're often just not in touch with our appetites. We're not in touch with the actual foods and quantities and quality of food that we've eaten. Sometimes we eat when we aren't hungry. For example, the clock tells us it's lunch and I'm at work. I got to eat even though I'm not hungry. Or we eat when it's not meal times, maybe before dinner or late at night. And we just eat without much thought. So to understand eating patterns, we need to look at that pattern in some way. And one way is to use the top-down approach that helps us think about, reflect on our choices. And another way is to take a bottom-up approach, which would be to actually look at the food that you're eating. And that would be food tracking, which is not a sign of disordered eating. It is actually a sign of just wanting to be more intentional. I want to talk a little bit about some food basics before I talk about food tracking. So I'm going to talk about the nutritional pyramid and 5 things in the nutritional pyramid, starting from the bottom. And these are the things that have the biggest impact on whatever your goals may be: weight loss, weight maintenance, weight gain, improved athletic performance or strength, that sort of thing. So let's look at the things that matter most at the bottom and go up to the top. And the first thing would be calories. It's just a simple measure of energy intake, and this really determines body weight. And there are formulas that can help you determine how many calories you need. There's lots of online calculators, and they'll use things like your weight, your age, your height. But the online calculators, they don't take into account things like dieting history, body composition, activity level to a certain extent, but more precise is important. But sleep and stress, food restrictions, disease states, these are things that are not necessarily taken into account from those online calculators. And although I love MyFitnessPal, the free online calorie calculator, it often will really mess up what your calories should be. So it's really best to get some human input on what your caloric needs are instead of just using a formula. But that's at the bottom of the pyramid, the calories. Second is macronutrients, and that's just fancy talk for protein, carbs, and fat. Those are the three macronutrients. The fourth one I'm not going to talk about, but that is alcohol. It's metabolized entirely differently, but there are really only three macronutrients. And the macronutrients is what determines your body composition, how much fat, how much muscle you have, but other things also determine that, including exercise, sleep, stress, genetics, age. And within the macronutrient level, second from the bottom, there are hundreds of well-researched studies that provide solid evidence as to how much protein is optimal, but conflicting carbs and fat can fill in the rest, kind of designed on, or based on your personal preference. But like some people do better on eating more fat, some people feel better eating more carbs. The best profile of macronutrients is one that does not eliminate an entire macronutrient. So, for example, if you're never eating carbs or never eating fat, these are very unsustainable ways of eating. And so I highly suggest not eliminating a macronutrient group entirely. Third from the bottom is food quality. So common sense is going to tell us that some foods have more nutritional density than others, like jelly beans don't have as much nutrition as, say, broccoli. I'm talking about density that includes, more colorful foods, not Fruit Loops, has micronutrients, fiber, water-filled foods. I'm not necessarily talking about organic, grass-fed. I'm really talking more basic, not getting into like the weeds of which organic food would be better. Is it better to have grass-fed or corn-fed, beef, that sort of thing? No, I'm just looking at big things like vegetables over candy, for example. Fourth from the bottom is nutrient timing. That would be like, when do you eat? There's lots of kind of rules like no eating after 6 p.m. or should you eat breakfast, or 3 meals better than 3 meals and 2 snacks, that kind of thing. And there a lot can happen depending on when you eat. And then the very top is the supplements, and these really don't matter unless the foundation of the pyramid is taken care of. I really only advocate 3 supplements for most people, and that would be vitamin D, omega-3, and creatine. But I'm not going to talk about maybe a protein supplement if you're not getting enough whole foods. But that doesn't really matter. Supplements aren't going to matter if your calories, macronutrients, and food quality is out the window. So having talked a little bit about that pyramid, let's talk specifically about the bottom, and that is going to be the calories and the macronutrients. And if you want to become more intentional with your eating choices, it's great to become aware of what you're currently eating. Like a lot of times you just don't need to change everything. You're probably doing a lot of things correctly. And so tracking your macronutrients is a great way to sort that out. And I often equate counting macros or tracking food to banking. For example, if you were going bankrupt, your accountant or somebody helping you would say, well, let's take a gander at, where you're spending your money, what money is coming in, and just kind of taking a look at your money situation. And that's exactly what's happening with food tracking. What money is coming, or what calories are coming in, what How are you moving your body? How are you potentially spending those calories? And it really just creates an awareness. Because I know clients coming to me a lot will say, hey, I'm eating healthy, but they might be eating nuts for protein and they don't understand that nuts actually have more, it's more of a fat source than a protein source. Or they might be having 2 avocados a day, which are, have a lot of fiber and healthy fat, but might be, they are very calorie dense, and that might not be helping them meet their goals. So logging gives you the confidence to make food choices over time that serve your needs. And at the end of the day, we log so that you don't have to log. The idea is that food logging is not something that you're going to do for the rest of your life. I usually just suggest it, especially at the beginning of someone trying to make some healthy choices, and then maybe check in occasionally with food logging to, keep yourself honest. And it's really a way of connecting the dots between what you're eating and the results you're getting, how it's making you feel over time. It sounds funny, but food logging actually gives you freedom, because a lot of times you might realize, hey, I need to eat more. I need to eat more protein. I need to eat more fiber. A lot of my clients might say it might be liberating for them to see, hey, I have room for popcorn or an ice cream treat or whatever, so that they don't feel so restricted. The biggest benefit of food logging is that it forces you to plan ahead a little bit. And the idea of intuitive eating is that you'll be more intentional with your food intake. But one of the biggest problems is decision fatigue. You've had a busy day. You're tired from work or kids or all of life's stresses, and you don't have a plan for food. And so then you have decision fatigue. You can't decide. So you end up with maybe some grab and go foods that aren't really meeting your needs. So one suggestion that I have is to plan your meals before you actually have them, or the night before, because the plan is half the battle. Then you can always alter it on the day that you're eating. But it really makes eating and making those decisions about what you're going to eat a lot easier, because you have to have the food in your house, or you have to have it available. And it just takes a lot of the stress of eating out. It's all about being intentional and not using it as an assessment tool as to whether you're a good or a bad person. It shouldn't, the tracking should be to create awareness, not to cause guilt or shame. And at the end of the day, we're not determining, was I a good person? Was I a bad person? The only judgment that tracking should cause is, did I do better than I would have normally? Did I make better food choices than I did in the past? And possibly, where can I improve? What did I learn today about my eating habits or my appetite? When you food track, particularly ahead of times, it really only takes about 5 to 10 minutes. And there's lots of whatever food tracking application you use. There's often like a copy from date, so it makes it very easy. And then you have a plan. You can make changes on the fly, and you can leave those food decisions. They're just not going to be a big issue. And over time, you might find that you track less because you've established some healthy habits. So that might be the key to understanding your eating patterns, so that you can become more of that intentional eater. As mentioned, you're not going to track forever. Ways to stop tracking would be to maybe only track one meal, or maybe track one day on, one day off, or maybe just track your protein if that's the challenge for you. The key is, does the tracking or does your behavior change when you're not tracking? And if it does, then maybe you return to tracking to help you create that more intentional eating. The idea is that maybe you're not tracking, but you're still doing the planning. Keep in mind that the progress towards becoming a more intuitive eater with less food hangups comes from the tool. It's not the tool. So it's a means to help you learn to trust yourself and to create those positive behaviors. My wish for you today is that you can make peace with food, truly enjoy it, and use it to wisely achieve your goal without guilt or shame. And like I said, truly enjoying food.
Thanks for listening. You'll find me, Allie, on Instagram at Allie Kerr Fitness.
And you'll find me, Shawna, on Instagram at Shawna Kaminsky. Feel free to pop us a DM with questions and or feedback.
If you're enjoying the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, please subscribe and share it with other health-minded women. Ratings and reviews are also much appreciated and help us get our message out to a larger audience.
Until next time, be healthy and be happy.